Today I'm bringing a very special guest to JoihokTV, with whom I'll be sharing interesting insights on his TB research as well as in context of the current COVID-19 pandemic. Though everyone is largely involved with the current pandemic right now, it's important not to neglect other infectious diseases that will continue to infect people and evolve even after this this panic blows over. One example is tuberculosis, or in short TB, which continues to infect thousands and thousands of people a day and remains the number one killer due to infectious disease worldwide. We are going to be looking at the root of disease spread within the population, which is transmission, the careful management of which is enough to stop a local outbreak from spiraling out into an uncontrollable pandemic. So disease transmission is basically the process by which pathogenic microorganisms spread from one person to another. There are various ways through which diseases can spread. For example, through direct contact transmission, which may include through droplet spread by coughing or sneezing, through exchange of bodily fluids, or through sexual intercourse. Indirect transmission involves mainly vector-borne diseases or transmission through air, as well as sharing of contaminated food. Now, in order to address the importance of transmission, specifically around TB, I'll be talking to TB specialist, Professor Sanjib Bhakta. Professor Sanjib Bhakta is a respected professor of molecular microbiology and biochemistry, and he's the head of the ISMB Microbacteria Research Lab at Birkbeck, University of London.
I'm so glad you're here with us today. I'd like to begin by first asking you how you're feeling and how self-isolation is going so far for you and your family.
Hi, Soshi. I'm fine. I'm really glad that we could manage to make this video today. I'm not in self-isolation at the moment. It is essential for those who are having COVID symptoms themselves or in their households, or those who may be particularly vulnerable for having other health conditions. So currently I'm following government guidelines and mostly staying at home and strictly maintaining social distancing.
So let's start by addressing the topic first, tuberculosis transmission within the community. So how does TB spread and how contagious is tuberculosis?
Majority of the TB transmission occurs within the community. Now, TB in human is caused by Mycobacterium tuberculosis. However, interestingly, there are a number of opportunistic mycobacterial, non-tubercular mycobacterial species, and they also can cause TB to those whose immune system is compromised. TB is airborne via different sizes of droplets that can transmit through sneezing, coughing, singing, talking, etc., etc.
So in the interest of the current pandemic, we can actually see some similarities, right, between TB and COVID-19. Both of them infect the lungs and they compromise our immunity. So, but the way that Mycobacterium tuberculosis transmits, it's slightly different, right, from coronaviruses?
Mycobacterium tuberculosis is a very slow-growing bacterial pathogen, so there are a lot of dissimilarities between a virus and a bacteria. But Mycobacterium tuberculosis is primarily transmitted through different sizes droplet nuclei of aerosols generated by people with TB, who may be low to highly infectious for a few weeks to years before effective treatment is started.
So TB actually has a longer incubation period than coronaviruses. Though they both transmit via close contacts, the way that they transmit is slightly different in that TB transmits mainly, as you said, through nuclei, droplet nuclei, whereas SARS-CoV-2, the novel coronavirus, is mainly spread through either fomites or through directly breathing the droplets, right, which is like sneezed out and coughed from infected people. But yeah, that's a quite interesting point that you made there. Do you believe that the current public health measures that people are taking, for example, washing their hands and sneezing into the trough of their arms, do you think these are also helping to curb the TB spread within the community?
Yeah, absolutely. I strongly believe in keeping good personal hygiene. We have seen a lot of this practice now. People are using them more rigorously these days.
Okay, so now let's have a more up close look at TB and address the ongoing research in the field. So I believe you're looking at natural products as potential sources for antimicrobial compounds. Am I right?
We are evaluating some extracts and pure compounds from a large number of plant families. And we have investigated their ability not only to produce antibacterial compounds, but also those simple molecules that have properties to reverse the tide of antibiotic resistance. And I believe nature is an amazingly creative chemist. And we must bring back natural resources to accelerate new antibiotic discovery to treat global infectious diseases caused by a large number of WHO priority bacterial pathogens.
Okay. Why is there this current need to accelerate drug discovery?
So in short, we have run out of antibiotics to treat drug-resistant cases of infections effectively. Now let's face the difficult reality. Talking only about TB, in a year, 500,000 new multi-drug resistant TB cases were reported worldwide, where patients do not respond to any of the first-line antibiotic treatment available to them. So as a result of that, 1/3 of them, about 150,000 of MDR TB patients die every year.
Can these antibiotics be potentially used as treatment for viral infections like coronavirus as well?
No, unfortunately not. Antibiotics cannot kill viruses because bacteria and viruses have different mechanisms and machineries to survive and replicate within the host. So by using antibiotics, in fact, inappropriately, we risk bacteria becoming more resistant.
Yeah.
If we want to be able to use antibiotics when we need them, we really need to stop abusing them.
So, as we have seen from this pandemic, more now than ever, the need to build an international capacity of specialists and cross-disciplinary collaboration is very important for accelerating research in the field of communicable diseases. Do you agree? What is your take on this?
Well, I could not agree more with you. I always believed in one world cooperation. You see, I also don't worry about revealing my naivety in global trade, economics, and politics, for example. And that is very important. We need to keep our ego away from us to create a worldwide cooperation to tackle such huge global crisis. So that is essential when you think about building an international capacity, and international interdisciplinary expertise, which was never considered so desperately until now.
Anyway, speaking of lab research, I'm guessing since you're social distancing, you're not working in the lab at the moment. Do you find this challenging? How are you coping?
So I think that most of the people in my group and others in the department, like research project students, PhD scholars, fellows, they have been affected by the lab closure for their current research. And though my research team is connected remotely, we are using a number of different digital educational platforms. We still spend a lot of time trying to kind of diversify our activities and trying to find out ways to tackle this crisis time. I think ever since my undergraduate studies in Kolkata, I developed a close relationship with medicinal plants. So for me, I have already started growing some fruits, vegetables, and flowers from seeds.
In a way that seems you're not completely isolated actually from the research lab, because you are growing some of these natural sources of compounds in your own garden. What is the worst thing about staying at home?
Well, I hate doing routine workouts. Well, now that is proving to be very difficult for me, because you can see that I'm more housebound, and you see my daughter is putting a lot of pressure on me. So I'm trying to kind of do some exercise, at least one exercise per day.
At least one exercise. I mean, it's good. Exercise is what keeps us healthy, and I mean, it's great that you are keeping yourself fit at a very difficult time like this. So, is there anything else you'd like to say, or you want to say to our viewers?
Well, I would refer to a blog I recently read on how to build on our personal identity to help overcome this adverse time. And I'm sure that we all are practicing resilience and enjoying the part of our newfound life in our normal daily routine.
I will put the link in below, so you don't have to go scourging for it on the internet. But other than that, thank you so much for having this kind of talk, this chat with me. We've learned so much about your research. We've learned about how you keep yourself busy at home.
Thank you, Fish.
COVID-19, like TB, reminds us of the importance of ongoing scientific research. We no longer live in an era where we have to rely on superstitions or assumptions to kind of understand what is going on right now. We know what the novel coronavirus is. We know how it spreads, and we know how to minimize the death rate from it. It's not only time to listen to the evidence, but to understand the ways we can use it and benefit from the wealth of research that is enabling the best of humanity's response to not only COVID-19, but to other diseases like tuberculosis as well.